person whose name cannot be spoken, the most evil dark wizard in history, Voldemort, was not born this way. He was once a gifted and handsome boy who stood out at Hogwarts. People are familiar with his cold ruthlessness. Few know about his past as a brilliant prodigy named Tom Riddle, and how he gradually fell into darkness until he became the Dark Lord, feared by all. Today, we will discuss how Voldemort transformed from a genius student at Hogwarts into a remorseless dark wizard. The story begins in the castle of Hogwarts. Every autumn, when the first new students walk into Hogwarts, the ancient sorting hat whispers and sorts them into the four houses. Tom Riddle, only 11 years old at the time, stood under the hat with a thin figure and a chilling calm. The sorting hat was silent for just a second before declaring, "Slytherin." From that moment on, Tom began a brilliant yet secretive academic journey at Hogwarts. Year after year, he never faltered in his magic classes, executing every spell with unmatched precision. He earned the admiration of professors while silently sowing fear and intimidation among his classmates. Not only did he possess profound wisdom, but he also had a natural charm. However, hidden beneath this charm was a cold, ruthless, and almost cruel ambition. Under the potions master Horace Slughorn at Hogwarts, Tom learned the secret of splitting one's soul, a secret that even dark history books had never recorded. In that deep darkness, he first encountered the forbidden art of Horcruxes, a dark magic that involves splitting one's soul to seek immortality. From that moment on, Tom Riddle sold his soul to darkness, marking the beginning of his transformation into Voldemort. As a genius mind was corroded by desire, the once brilliant Slytherin student gradually shed his humanity. He began to pursue power at the cost of lives and even souls, no longer caring about the consequences, solely to prove himself as the most powerful being in the world. On the night he left Hogwarts, dark clouds loomed, and the moonlight hid in shadows. Tom Riddle officially abandoned his name and transformed into the unmentionable name, Voldemort. In a remote village in England, the Gaunt family was once a prominent pure-blood wizarding family, with a history that dates back to the ancient wizarding era. The ancestors of the Gaunt family were none other than Salazar Slytherin, one of the four founders of Hogwarts. They were known for their proud lineage and obsession with blood purity. However, over time, the Gaunt family gradually fell into decline, with its members living in poverty and despair. Merope Gaunt was the last significant member of the Gaunt family. Her father, Marvolo Gaunt, often showed her indifference and contempt, while her brother Morphin was consumed by anger and violence due to the family's dire circumstances. Growing up in this oppressive environment, Merope was filled with loneliness and hopelessness. She was acutely aware of her connection to her family's history, and the pride of Salazar Slytherin weighed heavily on her, yet she felt powerless against the expectations placed upon her. By chance, Merope met a young muggle named Tom Riddle. Tom's kindness and warmth captivated Merope. However, she knew she could never win his heart because of her family background and identity. In her despair, she decided to brew a love potion, a powerful elixir that would inspire intense infatuation in its target. In her lonely room, Merope secretly gathered various rare ingredients and carefully followed the legendary recipe. Her heart was filled with anticipation and anxiety, longing to gain true love through this potion. When Tom drank the love potion, Merope's wish seemed to come true. He became infatuated with her and even proposed. During those days, Merope finally felt the warmth of being loved. However, the effects of the potion were short-lived. As its magic gradually faded, Tom began to awaken to the reality of Merope's true identity. His feelings for her cooled, and he ultimately chose to leave her, plunging Merope back into loneliness and despair. After being abandoned, Merope discovered she was pregnant, filled with complex emotions. She felt both anticipation for the child and pain over losing Tom. On a dark, rainy night in 1926, the cry of a baby broke the silence in that remote village in England. His name was Tom Riddle, born into despair and loneliness. His mother, Merope Gaunt, a forgotten witch, secretly raised him while his father chose to flee upon learning of her identity. All of this seemed to foreshadow the trajectory of fate, the birth of an orphan destined to struggle in darkness. In the dark corridors of the orphanage, Tom Riddle walked alone, filled with distress and unease. Since the death of his mother, Merope Gaunt, he had been forced to live in this indifferent place, where the other children often mocked him, making him feel isolated and rejected. His heart was filled with longing to be loved, to be recognized, but more than anything, he craved power. Tom's days in the orphanage were filled with oppression and loneliness. The heartless children frequently sought opportunities to bully him, especially intrigued and frightened by Tom's strange demeanor and reclusive behavior. One day, as he was being bullied, Tom became overwhelmed with emotion, a surge of anger rising within him. He couldn't understand his feelings, but in that moment, his rage seemed to transform into a force, causing the toys around him to suddenly fly into the air, startling the other children. Tom realized that this was not an illusion, but the awakening of the magical powers hidden within him. He began to observe himself carefully, discovering that in moments of extreme emotional upheaval, he could unintentionally perform magic. As time passed, this power excited and terrified him. He understood that this extraordinary ability served as a barrier between him and others, but it was also a double-edged sword. As he explored magic, Tom's inner darkness gradually deepened. Although life in the orphanage was suffocating, he began to use his magic to take revenge on the children who had bullied him. Whenever he felt angered or neglected, he would perform small pranks, manipulating nearby objects to startle his tormentors or causing their toys to shatter for no reason. This sense of control brought Tom an unprecedented thrill, and he slowly began to enjoy the feeling of using magic to harm others. Within him, hatred and loneliness intertwined, forming a distorted self-perception. He believed he was different from everyone else, viewing others as inept muggles who he had the right to control. During his time in the orphanage, Tom's magical abilities continued to grow, but his personality darkened further. Each thrill from using magic deepened his isolation, and he grew increasingly indifferent to others. He no longer yearned for friendship. Instead, he saw people as mere tools to achieve his own goals. The staff at the orphanage noticed Tom's abnormal behavior, but felt powerless to intervene, even if they suspected he was a problem child. He left no traceable evidence of his misdeeds, always covering his tracks flawlessly. On the surface, Tom remained a well-behaved child, but the darkness and distortion within him gradually consumed his entire world. All of this was about to change dramatically with the arrival of one person who would rewrite the fate of Tom Riddle and Hogwarts. On a dark autumn day, heavy clouds covered the sky as Albus Dumbledore sat in his office at Hogwarts, pondering a special matter. His gaze fell through the window onto the distant Forbidden Forest, his heart filled with both anticipation and concern. Tom Riddle, a child from the orphanage, had exhibited extraordinary magical talent that caught his attention. Months ago, during a visit to a London orphanage, Dumbledore had inadvertently heard Tom's story. The staff had mentioned that Tom was a remarkable child who, despite his young age, displayed powerful magical abilities when he was angry. They felt both fear and helplessness towards the boy, fully aware of his loneliness and rage. Dumbledore felt drawn to this orphan and believed it necessary to bring him to Hogwarts for proper guidance and support. After much thought, Dumbledore decided to visit the orphanage in person. He believed that this child had immense potential, and that with the right direction, he could change his future. As Dumbledore walked into the orphanage, a warm aura and bright sunlight seemed to breathe life into the gloomy place. The headmaster greeted him, and Dumbledore patiently listened to stories about Tom, concern shining in his eyes. The headmaster mentioned that Tom was unhappy at the orphanage, often bullied by the other children, and that he appeared unusually withdrawn. Dumbledore requested to see Tom. The headmaster led him to a small room where Tom sat by the window, lost in thought. Dumbledore gently knocked on the door, and Tom turned to him, a hint of wariness and curiosity in his gaze. "Hello, Tom," Dumbledore said with a smile. "I'm Albus Dumbledore, a professor at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I'm here to tell you something important." Tom silently watched him, filled with unease and skepticism. "Do you know who I am?" he asked, his tone somewhat cold. "I know you are a special child," Dumbledore replied patiently. "You possess unparalleled magical talent. I would like to take you to Hogwarts and give you a place to call home." A flicker of surprise crossed Tom's eyes, quickly replaced by an inner yearning. He had longed to be accepted and valued since childhood. Dumbledore's promise seemed to open a new door for him. Dumbledore explained the wonders of Hogwarts, describing the magical world and the vibrant life at the school. A spark of hope ignited in Tom's heart, but doubt still lingered. "Can I really go there?" he asked. "Of course, Tom. Your future is in your hands. You just need to believe in yourself." Dumbledore's voice was gentle yet firm. Eventually, Tom agreed to follow Dumbledore to Hogwarts. In that moment, the loneliness and anger that had filled his heart seemed to fade away, and new hope began to blossom within him. As Tom stepped out of the orphanage, he felt an unprecedented sense of freedom. Dumbledore walked alongside him through the Forbidden Forest, entering the grand doors of Hogwarts. At that moment, Tom's heart was filled with anticipation and desire, realizing he was about to embark on a new journey. Dumbledore knew that the child's future was unpredictable, but he believed that offering Tom opportunities and guidance might lead him down a brighter path. The doors of Hogwarts opened for Tom Riddle, planting hidden seeds for the future, all beginning with Dumbledore's care and belief. At the sorting ceremony at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle stood by the long table, filled with anticipation and nervousness. The iconic colors of the four houses swirled before his eyes, and the ancient magical aura permeated the entire hall. He could feel the gazes around him, filled with curiosity yet tinged with a hint of wariness. As he pondered which house he would be sorted into, the black sorting hat was gently placed upon his head. "Ah, another promising student," the hat whispered, a hint of teasing in its tone. "You have great potential, Tom. Your ambition and intelligence remind me of Slytherin. Your thirst for power and interest in the dark arts are quite rare." Tom's heart raced. He had always felt a mysterious connection to Slytherin, especially after learning about his lineage. His ancestor, Salazar Slytherin, the legendary dark wizard, was one of the four founders of Hogwarts. The intertwining of pride and ambition within him filled him with excitement. "Let me go to Slytherin," Tom quietly requested, secretly vowing to showcase his extraordinary abilities. "As you wish." The hat's voice faded away as the hall erupted into enthusiastic applause. Tom Riddle was sorted into Slytherin, becoming a proud member of the house. The deep green and silver decorations felt immensely comforting to him. Most of his classmates came from pure-blood families, their eyes sparkling with ambition and talent. Tom gradually blended into this competitive and determined environment. In the classrooms of Slytherin, Tom displayed astonishing magical talent, swiftly mastering various complex spells and techniques. He excelled in his studies and earned the admiration and respect of his peers through his outstanding performance in magical competition. As he delved deeper into magic, Tom developed a keen interest in the dark arts. He pored over forbidden books in the richly stocked library, becoming immersed in the secrets of powerful spells and ancient sorcery. In the dark corners of the library at night, he often practiced some of the taboo spells, feeling the power that dark magic brought. Tom exhibited a surprising talent for manipulating others and instilling fear. With simple spells and a commanding presence, he could easily influence the emotions of his classmates and control their thoughts. Those who had initially been at odds with him found themselves drawn to him, willing to serve him. In Slytherin, Tom gradually emerged as a leader of a small circle, manipulating those around him. During his years at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle gradually delved deeper into his lineage and identity. In a secret corner of the library, he discovered an ancient, dust-covered book that detailed the life of Salazar Slytherin and the mysterious legacy he left behind. Tom's inner desire was ignited. His ancestor was not only a great wizard, but also held a significant place in the history of Hogwarts. Through extensive study of Slytherin's magic and ideology, Tom realized the blood connection he shared with his founder. He began to understand that the values championed by Slytherin aligned perfectly with his own ambitions: pure blood, powerful magical abilities, and a disdain for the weak. His pride grew day by day, and he started to believe he was the true heir of Slytherin, destined to rid the world of those undeserving of magic. One night, Tom sneaked into the Chamber of Secrets, rumored to house a fearsome basilisk. With his innate ability to speak Parseltongue, Tom established a connection with the creature in the dark chamber. He discovered that this beast was not only powerful but also loyal, capable of aiding him in his plans. By controlling the basilisk, Tom began to exploit this dangerous creature for his own purposes, and his ambition swelled. Tom concocted a sinister plan. He utilized the basilisk's abilities to instill fear at Hogwarts, targeting students he deemed unworthy of learning magic. He directed the basilisk to attack certain ordinary students, creating chaos and casualties. For Tom, this was not just a purification of the school, but also a display of his power and influence. In 1943, Tom's plan reached its climax. He unleashed the basilisk, causing panic and injuring many students. To divert attention from himself, he framed Hagrid's pet, the Acromantula. Hagrid's reputation among the Hogwarts students began to suffer, and many started to blame him. Only Dumbledore's protection prevented Hagrid from being expelled, while Tom, pretending to care, reported the culprit, thereby receiving a special contribution award. Behind all this, Tom's diary became a testament to his dark plans. He meticulously recorded his observations of Hogwarts, his views on his classmates, and the process of taming the basilisk. His handwriting was sharp and powerful, reflecting his thirst for power and his unwavering belief in his own destiny. Some entries in the diary were insidious and cunning, hinting at his research into dark magic and detailing how he controlled the basilisk and used fear to achieve his goals. Tom proudly recalled how he eliminated those who interfered with him and his growing influence within the school. This diary was not only his manifesto, but also a testament to his pact with dark forces. Tom Riddle's story at Hogwarts, like his pursuit of power and control, was destined to lead to an irreversible conclusion. He sank deeper into darkness, gradually becoming the name that could not be spoken, Lord Voldemort. During his years at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle appeared to be a model student, academically excellent, talented, and well-liked by both teachers and classmates. However, Albus Dumbledore sensed a growing unease and began to suspect that Tom might be hiding some dark secret. As time passed, Dumbledore observed the peculiar aspects of Tom's character. Despite his outstanding classroom performance, Dumbledore noticed Tom's intense interest in dark magic and forbidden knowledge. He often appeared in the library late at night, poring over books that were forbidden to borrow, or whispering in the shadowy corners of the school. Dumbledore's intuition told him that this boy was not as innocent as he pretended to be. During one dinner, he overheard a classmate mentioning Tom's name in hushed tones, laced with fear and trepidation. These details deepened Dumbledore's suspicions, prompting him to investigate further this young man who was filled with potential yet shrouded in darkness. Tom sensed Dumbledore's scrutiny and grew increasingly wary. He knew that Dumbledore was not an ordinary wizard. His profound wisdom felt oppressive. To maintain his good image at school, Tom began to carefully conceal his true intentions. He understood that any small misstep could expose his dark plans. At school, Tom made every effort to present himself as a model student. He actively participated in house activities, helped other students with their problems, and even held positions in various clubs. He cultivated close relationships with classmates, especially those from prestigious families, to strengthen his social network. This facade made him appear above reproach. However, Tom did not abandon his pursuit of dark magic. To satisfy his thirst for power, he secretly conducted dangerous experiments. In the stillness of night, he practiced perilous spells and even studied ancient knowledge about souls and death from forbidden texts. He carefully recruited like-minded peers within his small circle, sharing his secrets and fostering an air of mystery. Whenever Dumbledore was present, Tom acted with utmost respect. He would approach the headmaster with questions, displaying enthusiasm for magic in an effort to win Dumbledore's trust and favor. Tom's smile was warm and sincere, yet his eyes gleamed with a hint of sinister intent, as if concealing deeper schemes. Despite Tom's deception, Dumbledore's suspicions did not wane. His observations became more meticulous as he began to investigate Tom's past, especially his ties to the Gaunt family and his connection to Slytherin. Dumbledore knew that the more exceptional a student was, the deeper the secrets they often carried. As Tom's influence within the school grew, Dumbledore felt an increasing urgency regarding the potential threat he posed. In this battle of wits and schemes, Tom continued to play the perfect model student on the surface, while Dumbledore searched for the truth in the shadows. Their rivalry intensified, destined to collide and spark unforeseen consequences one day. Tom thought to himself that his plans must not be interrupted. He had to continue the charade until he achieved his goals and gained complete control over everything. During his time at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle gradually discovered that his lineage was not as glorious as he had imagined. Through in-depth study of ancient books and documents in the library, he learned the true identity of his father, a mediocre muggle who was utterly unworthy of comparison with his noble magical heritage. On a dark night, as Tom perused a book about wizarding families, he suddenly came across a passage detailing the Gaunt family. The text described his father's background, revealing that the man he had never truly known, nothing more than a good-for-nothing muggle. This revelation struck him like a thunderbolt, filling him with anger and shame. The blood coursing through his veins was so base, unable to stand alongside the wizarding world he aspired to. "I can't bear to carry this name any longer," Tom whispered furiously to himself in the dim room, a wave of determination washing over him. He resolved to abandon this name tied to muggles and to rename himself. He thought of Voldemort, a name that symbolized his disdain for death and his pursuit of power. In French, Voldemort means flight from death, which was precisely what he desired, an escape from the bonds of mortality. With this redefinition of his identity, Voldemort's ambitions swelled further. He began to seek immortality, hoping to transcend human limitations and evade the shackles of death. To him, death represented a shameful failure, and he absolutely refused to become its prisoner. Voldemort delved into ancient magic and dark spells, discovering the legend of the Philosopher's Stone. According to the legend, this mysterious object could create an elixir of life, granting eternal life to its drinker. For Voldemort, this seemed like a shortcut to immortality. However, He soon realized that the elixir of life was not a perfect solution. It required constant consumption, which meant he would be trapped in a state of dependency, forced to drink it daily and endure its side effects. He desired not just the continuation of life, but absolute freedom and power. Upon this realization, Voldemort became resolute. He would not be constrained by the limitations of the elixir. He began to explore deeper, more arcane dark magic, seeking true methods to grant him immortality. His research gradually shifted towards the dark art of soul splitting, attempting to create Horcruxes to achieve his goals. Each Horcrux would contain a piece of his soul, becoming a continuation of his life. This decision plunged Tom further into isolation and darkness. He was no longer the exemplary student of Hogwarts, but had transformed into a dark wizard driven by power and the quest for immortality. As time went on, his plans grew more sinister, and his name began to evoke fear. From that fateful night when he uncovered the truth about his lineage, Tom Riddle was irrevocably transformed into Voldemort, a sorcerer pursuing immortality and absolute power in the shadows. His story is not only one of a thirst for power, but also a deep contempt for death, destined to unleash an irreversible catastrophe. In his 6th year at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle had become an outstanding student, particularly excelling in potions and dark arts. As his desire for dark power grew stronger, Tom decided to inquire about the secret of soul splitting from Professor Horace Slughorn, an ancient technique that could allow him to escape death. One cold winter evening, Tom found his way to Slughorn's office. He gently knocked on the door, and the professor was inside, mixing potions in a dimly lit room filled with rich aromas. "Tom, come in," Slughorn smiled, seemingly quite fond of this talented student. Tom smiled slightly, feigning innocence as he asked, "Professor, I've heard that the relationship between the soul and magic is quite profound, and that splitting the soul can grant a wizard extraordinary powers. Would you be able to share some knowledge on this topic?" Slughorn's expression hesitated. He knew that the subject of soul splitting was extremely dangerous, but he was also captivated by Tom's talent. After some contemplation, Slughorn decided to teach Tom some basic theories. "The process of splitting the soul is very complex," Slughorn said slowly. "First, a wizard must commit an extremely evil act, usually murder. This act causes a severe tearing of the soul, allowing for the split. Then, through some ancient spells and magical objects, the wizard can seal part of the soul into a Horcrux, achieving a form of immortality." A strong desire surged within Tom. He had already envisioned the Horcrux he would create, filled with ancient ambition. Slughorn continued, "Creating a Horcrux involves several crucial steps. First, you must identify an object that can serve as a Horcrux. Next, you need a spell infused with dark power. And most importantly, you must commit the act that splits the soul. You can seal away this part of your soul, allowing you to survive even in death." Tom silently noted these steps, already beginning to conceive his plans, determined to create multiple Horcruxes to ensure his immortality. In the following years, Tom Riddle successfully crafted several Horcruxes. Initially, He chose items of significant symbolism, including Salazar Slytherin's locket, which he acquired from the school's artifacts, symbolizing his inheritance from Slytherin. Helga Hufflepuff's cup, which he found and sealed at a secret location. As the number of Horcruxes increased, so did Tom's dark power. However, the acts of soul splitting brought significant side effects. First, with each act of splitting his soul, the darkness and pain within him deepened. He began to lose his humanity, becoming colder and more ruthless, with his emotions twisting. Each Horcrux he created caused him to lose a part of his soul, turning him into a more merciless being. Secondly, Tom found that his use of magic was affecting his emotions and relationships. The more he relied on these Horcruxes, the harder it became to establish genuine connections with others, leading him to become a lonely wizard. Despite his brilliance, the emptiness within him remained unfillable. Ultimately, Tom Riddle's plans delved deeper, and he walked the path to darkness under the identity of Voldemort, becoming one of the most feared entities in the wizarding world. The cost of splitting his soul was heavy. However, in his view, the pursuit of immortality was worth any sacrifice. After Tom Riddle completed his studies at Hogwarts, his heart was filled with a thirst for power. With his extraordinary magical talent and mastery of dark forces, he was determined to return to the school, not just for revenge, but to establish a totalitarian regime of pure-blood wizards under his command. After graduating, Tom arrived at Hogwarts and headed straight for the office of then-Headmaster Dippet. He smiled slightly, as if everything were within his grasp. Tom spoke, "Headmaster, I wish to teach defense against the dark arts here." Dippet looked up, scrutinizing the young wizard. He recognized Tom's potential, but also felt a sense of unease. After a moment's hesitation, he said, "Tom, you're still too young and need more experience." Tom felt a surge of anger inside, but maintained his calm facade. He knew this was an obstacle, but he was not about to give up. He desperately wanted to grasp the power of Hogwarts to expand his influence. Just as Dippet hesitated to reject Tom's job request, Dumbledore appeared. As the new deputy headmaster, he immediately sensed the hidden ambition within Tom. Dumbledore's instincts warned him that this young man posed a great danger. "Headmaster," Dumbledore said in a low voice, "I advise you to deny his request. Tom Riddle, while talented, has ambitions that should not be underestimated." Dippet nodded and ultimately decided against allowing Tom to teach at the school. Disappointment washed over Tom, but his anger continued to simmer. He vowed to prove his worth and attain ultimate power. Years later, Tom Riddle had completed the creation of his Horcruxes and had become Voldemort. He not only possessed powerful dark magic, but also knew many secrets of Hogwarts. This time, he returned to the school, prepared to appear under a different identity. He entered the headmaster's office, his gaze resolute, his voice deep and authoritative. "Headmaster, I wish to teach defense against the dark arts here." Dumbledore, now the headmaster, felt a wave of unease at the sight of this former student. Without hesitation, he replied, "No, Tom. Your current power and ambitions are too dangerous. The school cannot allow you to take control." Voldemort's fury burned within him. He understood what Dumbledore's refusal meant. Once again, the opportunity to return to the school had been denied, and he silently vowed to make them pay. In retaliation, Voldemort decided to place a terrible curse on the Defense Against the Dark Arts course. He infused the textbooks and curriculum with an invisible magic, causing every professor to be unable to teach the subject for more than a year. As time went on, Hogwarts students discovered that the Defense Against the Dark Arts classes always changed teachers, with each one leaving hurriedly after a year, unable to complete their teaching. This left students feeling helpless in the face of dark forces, disrupting the order of the school. Voldemort secretly reveled in the shadows, not only exacting his revenge, but also unwittingly gathering more followers, bolstering his ranks. Everything was paving the way for his future domination. In his heart, the dark plan had already taken shape. His name would become a nightmare for all, and Hogwarts would be reshaped under his shadow, turning into a place filled with fear and absolute control. In the dark 1970s, the atmosphere in the wizarding world grew increasingly tense as Voldemort began his reign of terror, launching the First Wizarding War. Driven by his extreme pursuit of pure blood supremacy and hatred for all mudbloods, the entire wizarding society fell into endless fear. As Voldemort's power continued to grow, his goals became clear. He sought to completely eliminate any threats to his rule, particularly those he viewed as inferior wizards and muggles. Eventually, his sights fell on a baby named Harry Potter, whom he considered his greatest threat because this child's parents had defeated Voldemort, James and Lily Potter. On a dark night, Voldemort, accompanied by his followers, stormed the Potter household, ready to fulfill what he believed to be a fated battle. However, he did not anticipate that this small infant would not be an easy prey. As he cast the killing curse, Voldemort felt an incredible force, the powerful magic of love that Lily Potter had cast to protect her son. As the spell was cast, Voldemort's dark power encountered an unexpected rebound, and the lethal curse turned back upon him. At that moment, his body disintegrated, and he lost his physical form, becoming a mere soul that wandered the world. Voldemort's failure not only resulted in the loss of his body, but also triggered unprecedented upheaval in the wizarding community, with many believing he had been completely vanquished. However, Voldemort's soul did not perish. He survived in a strange form in a distant place, waiting for an opportunity to regain his power. For over a decade, he lingered as a shadow in the darkness, seeking ways to regain his corporeal body. As time passed, the Order of the Phoenix, under Dumbledore's leadership, gradually rebuilt and gathered strength to resist Voldemort's potential return. With orders from the Ministry of Magic, the Order continually planned and prepared for future challenges. 1990, Voldemort finally found a way to restore his body. Using various dark magics and sinister rituals, he regained his physical form and immediately launched the Second Wizarding War. He gathered followers once more, attempting to reclaim control over the wizarding world. This time, Voldemort was even more cunning and powerful, willing to employ any means to achieve his goals. However, the Second Wizarding War did not go smoothly. Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix engaged Voldemort in fierce combat, Despite Voldemort's power and followers, Dumbledore and Harry Potter, among others, continuously grew stronger and gradually revealed Voldemort's weaknesses. Ultimately, during the Battle of Hogwarts in 1998, Voldemort faced his greatest enemy, Harry Potter. Their confrontation was not only a clash of power, but also a collision of beliefs. Voldemort's arrogance led him to underestimate the love and courage that resided within Harry. At a critical moment, Voldemort cast his ultimate curse, but the result was that the spell rebounded upon him. Just as it had a decade earlier, Voldemort faced the consequences of fate and lost his life once again. At the age of 71, Voldemort's life ended, filled with endless hatred and loss. He had pursued immortality throughout his life, stopping at nothing, yet he died at the average human lifespan, a tragically ironic ending to his story. In the magical world, the story of Tom Riddle is a thought-provoking legend. From a gifted student at Hogwarts to the feared Dark Lord Voldemort, his path of downfall is filled with complex factors and deep psychological motivations. Tom Riddle's performance at Hogwarts was undoubtedly brilliant. He excelled in Slytherin House, showcasing remarkable magical talent and intelligence that garnered admiration. Even among his peers, he stood out. He not only excelled in dark magic, but also exhibited an extraordinary ability to manipulate others. His charm and talent made him the center of attention on campus, yet a deep sense of loneliness and a desire for control gradually emerged within him. Tom's fall from grace was not accidental. His upbringing played a crucial role in shaping his character. Born to Muggle parents, his father's abandonment of his mother left him with an unspoken sense of pain from rejection. Mary Gaunt, his mother, despite her wizarding lineage from the Gaunt family, lived a life filled with despair and misfortune. This background twisted Tom's understanding of human emotions from a young age, leading him to believe that only power and control could earn him recognition. At Hogwarts, he gradually became aware of his differences compared to other students, especially those from Muggle backgrounds. This identity conflict intensified his desire for power, as he believed mastering dark magic was the only way to surpass others and prove his worth. During his time at Hogwarts, Tom grew increasingly enamored with the power of dark magic. He delved into deeper forms of magic and even explored how to split his soul in pursuit of immortality. His mentor, Slughorn, unknowingly provided him with key knowledge, failing to prevent him from spiraling into darkness. Tom's inner darkness and thirst for power intertwined, ultimately driving him down a path filled with hatred and fear. He began to see himself as the ruler of the wizarding world, convinced that only pure-blood wizards deserved to dominate it, and anyone who obstructed him must be eliminated. Before launching the Wizarding War, Tom was completely consumed by darkness. For him, any means were justified. It was this extreme ideology that led him to target the infant Harry Potter, believing this to be the best way to eliminate a potential threat. This decision symbolized his complete moral decline and represented his total abandonment of humanity. However, things did not unfold as he had planned. Voldemort's curse rebounded, causing him to lose his physical form and become a wandering soul. This reversal was not just fate's mockery, but a punishment for his desires for power and control. Voldemort's story leaves an important lesson for future generations. The pursuit of power without moral restraint leads to self-destruction. Everyone has the power to choose, but the direction of those choices can alter the trajectory of destiny. Tom Riddle transformed from a promising young wizard into a ruthless Dark Lord due to his endless thirst for power and disregard for humanity. Later in the Wizarding War, although Voldemort resurrected, his ultimate defeat revealed the truth. Darkness cannot ultimately triumph over light. Courage, friendship, and love are humanity's greatest strengths. The cost of losing one's humanity and genuine emotions in the pursuit of power and control is devastating. Perhaps, as Dumbledore said, love is the most powerful magic. Thank you very much for your likes and comments. Your support is very important to us.